Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel grieves as more than 100,000 line the funeral procession today for Shiri Bibas and her little boys, all murdered by Hamas, even as more hostages are set to be released tomorrow. A sign of the end of times, Red Heifers are back in Israel. We're going to look at their biblical significance and why some say it's a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Here at home, the battle over defense spending for the United States and the blame game between Republicans and Democrats over Democratic charges about President Trump's moves towards Russia. And Republicans saying the Biden administration allowed Iran, Hamas, and others to rebuild. And we're going to hear from an expert on what you eat, how it affects how you age. All those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Going to begin this half hour in Israel, where more than 100,000 people line the roads today as the funeral cars carrying the bodies of slain former hostages Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas made their way to the cemetery in the southern part of the country, not far from their home. Shiri Bibas and her two young boys, Ariel and Kfir, were abducted on October 7, 2023 and taken to Gaza. They were brutally murdered by Hamas. The crowd carried Israeli flags and orange balloons depicting the color of the children's hair, now a symbol of honor and shared grief for the family. Singing could be heard at certain points as the procession made its way through the area. New reports say Israel will be more than 600 Palestinian prisoners Thursday who were originally set to be released last weekend. That release was held up for several days, a protest by Israel for Hamas's mistreatment of the Israeli hostages. And Hamas is expected to turn over the bodies of 4 more hostages at the same time as a fulfillment of phase 1 of the ceasefire deal. Want to turn now to the long-range picture of what's happening in Israel and what some say is a sign of the end times. Here, years ago, the arrival of 5 red heifers in Israel attracted global attention. Today, those cows are in ancient Shiloh. CBN's Chris Mitchell explains the significance of the historic event.
Here in Shiloh, first time after 2,000 years, we have real kosher red heifers, which is really exciting.
Mariah Shapir is the manager of the visitor center at ancient Shiloh and explains why the red heifers are so important.
In the Bible, it says when a person wants to enter the temple, which is called the house of life, he has to go through a process using ashes of the red heifer, meaning that the red heifers are actually the key to the temple.
Shapira says that process is for purification, to cleanse someone from death.
So a person that got in contact with death, either in a funeral, in a hospital, and he wants to enter the temple, which is called the house of life, full of the presence of God, has to go through this process. And the process is the priest used to take the ashes of the red heifer, mix it with water that comes from a spring, life water. He's actually taking the source of death, mixing it with source of life, and these together become the purifying water.
Jewish tradition maintains that the red heifer ashes are needed to rebuild the third temple. Some Christians believe a third temple would pave the way for the end times. Even Hamas reportedly blamed the red heifers in part for their invasion on October 7th, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque would be in danger if the heifers were used to build a third temple. The animals are also mentioned in the book of Numbers, chapter 19. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "This is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, that they bring you an unblemished red heifer, in which there is no defect, and on which a yoke has never been mounted. And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and it shall be brought outside the camp and be slaughtered in his presence." To be selected, these qualifications must be met. Be an adult cow with reddish-brown hair, no hairs of a different color, no blemishes, and never used for any other purpose.
These are the 5 red heifers out here in Shiloh. 2 have already been disqualified, but you only need 1 to qualify for the ceremony for the purification for the temple. Here you go, ladies.
My next point is to try to find a farmer who can make hay, which is, the flowers and the leaves and everything stay on them. That way it's better for the cows.
Larry Barnschwager, a farmer from northern Indiana, takes care of them.
It's just a lot of fun to be involved in something that I see God is doing behind the scenes.
He says what he's experienced since arriving here is remarkable.
While I've been standing here at Shiloh, every continent, countries I'd never heard of before, were here to see the red heifers. There's something happening in Shiloh.
And Barnschwager believes it's biblically significant.
Ideas are becoming a reality. In other words, the idea of a red heifer has been in the Jewish understanding for over a couple thousand years. But here at Shiloh, just like it says in Genesis 49, there's something happening here that's drawing the nations, and it's the red heifers.
This area is where Hannah prayed for a son, where Samuel served the Lord, and Joshua divided the land between the 12 tribes.
The place where many stories of the Bible occurred. And today we also have here the red heifers, which is something new. The budgets for this visitor center stopped because of the war. So we invite whoever wants to be part with us to help this very important thing of the red heifers.
Shiloh has so much significance. It was the spiritual capital of Israel for 369 years.
During our visit, Bible teacher Dr. Todd Fink brought his group to see the red heifers.
This is huge. This is huge, and the one gal that was giving us the tour, she said that part of the reason why Hamas invaded is because of these red heifers. And according to prophecy, these red heifers are significant. From the time of Israel's history, they say that only 9 have been killed for these ashes. And so for these to be here in Shiloh here, and for that to fit in with what appears to be prophecy on the horizon, we're living in monumental days, unbelievable times.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Ancient Shiloh.
Coming up here at home, the battle over the U.S. defenses in Congress, including Republican accusations the Biden administration allowed Hamas and other bad actors like Iran to regain power, and Democratic attacks on the Trump administration over Russia. We're going to have that story for you and more when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
I want to take you to Capitol Hill now, where members of Congress focus on the Trump administration's American First foreign policy strategy Tuesday. While there's bipartisan support for shoring up U.S. defenses and protecting Americans from emerging global threats, CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke has that story from Washington.
During a House subcommittee on military and foreign affairs hearing Tuesday, Democrats were vocal about concerns over what they've seen from the Trump administration on the global stage. They cited Monday's UN vote siding with Russia against a resolution condemning the war in Ukraine, and comments made by President Trump accusing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of being a dictator.
Does this administration know who our adversaries really are, or who our allies really are?
President Trump's foreign policy has centered around advancing U.S. interests and achieving peace through strength. But Democrats worry it's at the expense of our allies.
Europe is not our enemy. We have similar goals, shared values, and most importantly, many decades of mutual trust and cooperation with the goal of global peace and stability. If our allies believe that they cannot rely on us, they will stop sharing critical intelligence. That is a threat to our country.
Republicans, meanwhile, blame what they consider Biden administration policy failures for emboldening our adversaries and putting both the interests of America and our allies at risk.
We see this in the Indo-Pacific, where U.S. allies question our resolve and adversaries probe our vulnerabilities. The previous administration's failure to respond decisively to challenges, whether in the South China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, or securing critical supply chains, has dissolved confidence in America's leadership.
Republicans also say the former administration failed to prevent the war in Ukraine, is responsible for the resurgence of Iran-backed terror organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, and failed to secure the U.S. southern border.
President Trump is undoing the crippling policies of the Biden administration and returning the globe to peace through American strength.
Dr. Charles Kupchan, a senior fellow with the Council on Foreign Relations, says Trump has the opportunity to be a powerful agent of change for U.S. foreign policy.
Trump, if nothing else, is a disruptor who recognizes that it's time to go from the old to the new. The question that I have in my mind that I pose for the committee, is President Trump going to be only a demolition man who brings down the old order and leaves us standing in the rubble? Or is he actually going to be someone who brings us from the old to the new and builds an American grand strategy and international system that is better?
The Heritage Foundation's Brent Sadler warned lawmakers that to deter future aggression from countries like China and Russia will require a fresh perspective.
The focus on just readiness is a failure. Focus just on capacity is a failure. And focus just on some new capabilities and modern weapon systems is also a failure. We're in an and world. We have to do all three of those things if we hope to keep the peace.
Witnesses also talked about the importance of restoring the American people's faith in soft power as a deterrent. That would include foreign aid. In order to effectively wage that weapon, experts say the American people will need to see that their taxpayer dollars are no longer being lost to bureaucracy. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Turning now to the controversy over Elon Musk's DOGE program to cut wasteful spending. Federal workers are getting some reprieve for now from Musk's recent email mandate as uncertainty grows across Washington. Lawmakers are working together on DOGE's efforts. CBN's Michelle London spoke with Republican Congressman Tim Burchett about the battle over the spending cuts.
Red Burchett sits on the newly formed DOGE subcommittee. He tells me it's important to make sure legislation around wasteful spending is passed quickly so President Trump's executive orders will stick in the future, ultimately saving billions of dollars for taxpayers.
As Elon Musk aggressively works to reduce the federal workforce, he's doubling down on his ultimatum to federal workers to explain their accomplishments or be fired.
There was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people. Please tell us what you did last week.
Some federal workers are stuck in limbo, as some lawmakers are making a public plea to Musk on their behalf.
If I could say one thing to Elon Musk, it's like, please put a dose of compassion in this. These are real people.
But Red Burchett wants DOGE to have long-term success.
It is incredibly corrupt.
Is how he's describing the current state of wasteful spending in Washington. During their first hearing, the DOGE subcommittee says it talked to witnesses who shared plans to improve payment systems and decrease fraud. According to the subcommittee, billions of taxpayer dollars were lost to improper payments.
It was just 7 years ago, and our budget was around $4.5 trillion. We were spending that. We're now spending over $7 trillion. It's just ballooned, and it will never stop.
Funds, Burchett says, don't have a paper trail or any transparency. He also believes there hasn't been one federal program since COVID-19 that Americans can't live without. Burchett tells CBN News he's in favor of Musk moving quickly.
Yeah.
Do you feel like these cuts are moving too fast?
No, I don't. Again, I don't think we have much time. I'm getting a lot of blowback from folks that have been working from home and have since moved out of the area, thinking that they're going to get to keep their job.
DOGE's latest round of actions include requiring federal employees to return to the office, on par with the president's executive order signed last month. During a recent conservative political action conference, Trump addressed his federal buyout plan, claiming about 75,000 federal workers had accepted what his administration has called deferred resignations.
I hope they do a complete paper trail and show where all that money goes and who gets paid, because I suspect some members of Congress will be embarrassed by some of it.
Burchett says he hopes this committee will continue to expose government waste and eventually pass legislation to protect the president's orders.
Things that President Trump is doing by executive order are done at a stroke of a pen, and they can be undone at the stroke of a pen. That's why we need legislation in place to back these things up, to backstop.
More than 20 civil service employees resigned Tuesday from DOGE, saying they refuse to use their technical expertise to, quote, dismantle critical public services. Michelle London, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, how what you eat affects how well you age. We're going to have insights on that important health issue right after this. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Well, age may just be a number, but if you use that number to decide what's best to eat well, you will age well. And it is just what the doctor ordered. Dr. Ian Smith, that is. We're talking about eat your age. Before you get to eating your age, you spend some time talking about mindset. Why is it important that we deal with mindset before we even start talking about food?
Mindset really is the beginning of almost everything. If your mind is not in the right place, your body cannot follow. When you set things up mentally, then whatever comes, you're able to deal with much easier.
Now, you're talking about eat your age, and we break things up and what you should be doing at certain decades of your life.
Yeah.
What's happening?
As we age, we have physical changes and physiological changes. Mm-hmm. Your soft tissues, your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, they want to contract. They become dehydrated. And what happens is you start losing range of motion. And if you are not in the position where you are constantly moving, doing your range of motion, I would say motion is lotion. When you become more sedentary and you stop using it, you lose it. And so as we age, our body becomes more resistant to growth because we're not having all these variables. So what can we do to somewhat either slow or counteract these natural changes that occur? And that's really the premise of Eat Your Age, is that a lot of changes and a lot of solutions start at the kitchen table.
What should I be doing in my 30s so that I'm not sitting here? We won't say how old I am now, but feeling like, what should I be doing in my 30s?
So in your 30s, it's about building a foundation. Calcium is important for strong bones, for teeth. Vitamin B9 is extremely important because it's important for your red blood cell formation so you don't have anemia. But it's also important for if you're a woman of childbearing age and you have a newborn, it prevents birth defects. But then you also want iron. Things like spinach are important for iron. Iron is the building block of a protein in the blood called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is what attaches the oxygen and carries it throughout your body. So those are three of the power nutrients in your 30s you should be careful of. And then the book takes you through not just what the nutrients are, what they do, and where you can get them from. In your 40s, 40s is a time of change, hormonal changes and energy change. You want to make sure you have monounsaturated fats in your oils. You want to make sure that you have your antioxidants, but you also have to have calcium too, and vitamin D. So vitamin D is important because vitamin D helps your body to absorb calcium and phosphorus and retain it. So those are your 30s and 40s.
And someone watching in their 50s, 60s who did not do any of those things in 30s and 40s. I can think of many. I'm wondering, okay, so is it too late to now eat my age? What should we be doing?
It is never too late to make a change. Okay. I mean, change happens at all ages. I'm in my 50s. That is a great time for people to think about their heart health, including their bone health, but also their immune system.
In doing this book, we see some people celebrated who are doing extraordinary things. What did you learn or take away?
When you look at the blue zones, which are areas in the world where people live longer and they live healthier, that there are common traits of these people. They're eating more of a Mediterranean diet. They eat less processed foods. They eat less sugar. They are physically active, but they are also engaged in their community and their surroundings. And as we get older, becoming old is isolating. My mother's getting older, but I make her do things. I don't make it easy on her because she needs to have that engagement, that kind of stimulus. You can't always take care of them, let them think through problems, let them figure things out, learn new things.
Dr. Ian Smith's new book, Eat Your Age, is available wherever books are sold. You can also get the audio book as well. Be sure to join us this evening for a special edition of Studio 5. We're going to take you to Athens, Greece for an exclusive first look at the House of David, the series that follows the biblical story of David and his rise to kingship. We explore the set in Greece and talk to some of the cast and crew. You can catch the new episode of Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can watch it on YouTube. Coming up, the World Sled Dog Championships. We are back in New Hampshire. After being gone for 2 years, we're going to tell you why and bring you a look at this year's competition. We've got the story for you when we come back.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
We're back now with a nearly century-old competition in New Hampshire that's making a cool comeback. The 96th Annual World Championship Sled Dog Derby returned to Laconia for the first time since 2022 after a 2-year hiatus due to a lack of snow. This year, the competitors and spectators say conditions were perfect, and the dogs seem to agree. The event is free to the public and includes a $35,000 prize for the top mushers. Despite the past few years of hurdles, the weekend's race was considered a success, drawing in thousands of spectators. Wow. Well, time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is life. Remember this, you are called to life. God wants you to do more than just exist. He wants you to live. He sent his son to give you life in abundance. Consider, what does abundance look like, and prepare your heart to walk in it. It is the will of God for your life, yesterday, today, and forevermore. With that word, make this a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll see you back here tomorrow.